Calling to order our Lake County Commissioners Workshop on April 17th, 2025. We have Commissioner Beveridge and myself, Commissioner John Plechnik, in attendance. Commissioner Regovich had another obligation, so in lieu of our president as the most senior member of the board, if there's no objection, I will run this workshop. No objections being heard, would any member of the public like to speak?
Is it me? Okay, I'm just making sure. Good morning, Commissioners. Faith Andrews, Prouty Road, Concord Township. Lots of things we're celebrating today. County government, National County Government Month. Commissioner Plechnik, you mentioned cessation from Geauga County. And I think Lake is a great county, love Lake. I did live in Geauga for 7 years when I first moved back to Ohio. I was born and raised here. But Geauga gives back to the people there. They do reduce inside millage, so I'm just saying, I know that it's difficult for you guys to do that, especially when you're building a jail or a justice center without raising taxes. So this is why I'm here today. I'm kind of confused about what in the heck. I mean, you also, Commissioner Plechnik, talk about $600 million for the Browns and various other things. Where is it for the people? So what in the heck are you guys doing spending over $500,000 on a 2-car parking garage for a probate judge? The judge already has secure parking with the other judges. All he has to do is walk a few feet in and then take the tunnel to his office. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe he just doesn't want to walk as far as the other judges. Maybe he doesn't think it's fair. I have no idea. I understand that another option was provided that was a little cheaper, but he said no. I think it was one car. And I was not aware until this week that the design and architecture fees are in addition to the lowest bid, which came in at $515,000. So you guys talk about, and again, it's really tough to build a jail when you lose $306 million from the opioid settlement over 15 years. Now I know none of that was in a line item for the jail, but Commissioner Plechnik says everything is fungible, and so perhaps you would spend it on certain other things that normally a general fund would fund, and use that money for the jail or for the justice center. So I'm trying to figure out why you guys have such a problem with certain things and concern for the people, but you're willing to spend $500,000 for what many people have told me feels like an entitled judge. When again, secure parking is already provided. He just has to walk a little bit further. Now I also know, and you probably know this, that the judge can just court order his budget. He can court order you to do whatever the heck in the interest of justice. Make him do it. Tell him no. Make him court order the people pay for this ridiculous waste of taxpayer funds. Find your spine, gents. Do you work for the judges or do you work for the people? That's all I have. Thank you for listening.
So first I want to thank you for actually coming in and asking and engaging the commissioners in a conversation. I know a lot of times some people will like to resort to social media outlets where they're able to spread lies upon lies and misinformation and mischaracterizations.
Well, again...
And so I thank you for coming in and asking questions.
You're welcome.
Because I know that I, in the past, have been a target of not only yourself, but others with lies.
Well, I've been a target of lies as well, my friend.
Yeah, I know you have. So I find it surprising that you, as a former elected official, knowing how counterproductive lies are...
Are you saying that anything I've said here today is a lie?
Well, you're characterizing that we're going to be spending money on this jail. And I'm here to tell you that I have never indicated that we would be doing this jail, that we would never be spending this money on this jail. And in fact, as I understand it, and Jason can confirm this, did we spend any extra money by going out for bid?
No, we have not. We had a balance of funds on the original preliminary design engineering contract.
I think all I said was
No, you
that,
said,
you guys were trying to build a jail, and it's difficult to give inside millage back to the people like Geauga County is. I think that's what I said, but Mr. Massey is recording it, so we can go back to the tape.
Great, we can go back and we'll
Yeah,
also pull
I think that's what I
any
said.
commentary that
And we
might
were
be known
told,
elsewhere.
the people were told that you guys would be able to build this Justice Center without raising taxes. I think that's what I also
And
said
have we
as well,
done-
I'm not
And have
sure.
we raised taxes?
No,
Okay.
I'm,
And are we
hence
building a
the
garage?
reason why I'm concerned about why you're willing to spend $500,000
You just said
on
there.
the,
You just
on
said that
the
we're willing to do
parking
that.
garage.
We are not.
Okay, then, so you're not gonna do it? Are you
There is
gonna?
no chance I will ever vote.
Then why have
to
we
build-
spent money? You were willing to do, why did we go, you guys spend money to go out for bid? Why
It
did you
did not
guys?
cost us money to
The
go out for
design,
bid.
so you're telling me Burgess and Nyepel is working for free?
Jason,
So, if I may, we had a design contract, preliminary design contract with Burgess and Nyepel from a couple years ago, quite frankly. We put this out to bid, I believe it was in 2022, I don't have it in front of me. Bid estimate approximately $225,000 to $50,000, please don't quote me on that. That bid came, one bid was received, it came in, I believe it was north of $400,000. It was above and beyond the Ohio Revised Code 10% threshold, not a consideration. We then bid it again, 2023, 2024. Zero people even pulled it, let alone bid it. Nobody even pulled the bid books to take a peek at it. COVID, everything was fluctuating. Met with the judge one last time late last year. Said maybe the market's settling down. We've heard in these meetings bids are way high in 22, 23, cost escalations, et cetera. We have the balance of design and engineering and competitive bidding fees in the contract. So we met with B&N again early this year, coming up with cost estimates to the point where to make sure I had a sound, we've worked together, Ms. Andrews,
Yeah.
a sound estimate. Got a third-party estimate from Burgess and Nyepel. They have another subcontractor that put another number to it to make sure that we were having a true and accurate number to the best of our ability in this bidding environment. Went out to bid again in March. That bid opening was 2 weeks ago, and then it came in at 515, whatever it was, below the estimate at that point in time. May I continue with my conversation? Had a great conversation with Judge Bartolotta, I think it was last week, on that amount. And does it make sense to do this in light of everything that's going on, et cetera, et cetera? The judge was on the same side that my initial comments were to myself, thinking, man, is this the right decision to make with taxpayer dollars at this point? And the judge beat me to it,
Okay,
before I could even make a recommendation, because no action has been taken.
other than spending money on design and architecture fees, right?
I don't have the number in front of me, Ms. Andrews. I think we had some money left on the contract, and I'm always honest.
I'll make
Mark
a records request,
Mark
no
Hudson
worries.
called last week and said, hey, I saw the bids came in. I said, Mark, in my heart of hearts, when I make a recommendation to the commissioners, I don't think I can recommend this. I said, do we owe B&N any money? He goes, no, there's no additional fees due for this particular project.
So everything that supposedly, from what I think I'm hearing,
Okay.
this far hasn't cost a darn thing to the county
Additional.
than what you already spent.
That is correct.
Okay.
And if I am wrong, I will stand here in the next work session and say that, but that's not.
That's fine. And then like I said, and that is why I'm here.
Sure.
Okay, because the fact that you guys were even considering it, like,
No.
can we finally just put the darn thing to bed completely and
I
say,
want-
no, this is not gonna happen? The judge already has provided secure parking. He does not need anything else.
I was not considering that. And so to say that the commissioners are considering that, yes, it went out for bid, but it has not.
What was your,
come-
did you guys have to do a resolution to go out for bid? I think you did. What,
did.
was your vote no, or did you abstain from that
We
vote?
went out, I voted yes to go out for bid of no cost. I was told that this had no incremental cost to the taxpayers.
Who told you that?
Me.
Jason Boyd just did, as he told you.
No incremental cost to the taxpayer.
Correct. So we were
Yeah.
already spending X amount over here. By saying yes to going out for bid did not cost us another dollar. What it did, however, to Jason's credit, was allow him to sit down and have a conversation with the judge, in which the judge said $570,000 or whatever came in at $515,000. Yep. Okay.
Plus the, design fees and everything. So in other words, they're apples to apples comparison. You guys have stopped that with Burgess? Because from what I understood, they were in the process of reviewing all the bids to make apples to apples comparisons.
Well, that's part of the statutory requirement. When bids come in, you have to make sure that nothing was missed. I talked to Mark Hudson, I don't know what it was, Monday, Tuesday, and said, Mark, my recommendation to the commissioners will be to not proceed with this project.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, it
If
was.
I'm misrepresenting the commissioners, I will be back here to say that. I don't think I did. So
I'm glad to hear it. I mean, and I think the people are too. They were pretty miffed about the fact that you were even considering it. Going out for bid is considering it, Commissioner Beveridge.
Not
They were
voting yes,
upset
no. Going out to
that
bid is
anybody
not
would even
considering voting
consider
yes.
something as ridiculous as that
Well, then we can have
right
that
now.
conversation. In no realm.
Or at any time,
It
frankly.
could have come in at $100,000. It could have come in at $10,000. I would have never voted to build that garage. So if you want to say the commissioners, don't say me. If you have a question, this is the absolute proper form to please
Which is why I'm
come
here.
on in every other week and
Right.
ask questions.
Okay,
Without
very good, very
misrepresenting us.
good. This is what you would say. We will never know, okay, because it was being considered and you did vote to go out for bid. You voted yes on that. So I have to take your word for it. I'm happy that the first attempt at exposing, waste, fraud, and abuse in this county worked. The public found out about it, and I do believe that that is part of the reason that you guys are, including the judge, is shutting it down. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Before we move on, I just want to say for the record, Judge Mark Bartolotta is an honorable and very conservative man, and I'm using the word conservative, small c, in terms of fiscal responsibility. Any insinuation to the contrary is unfair and wrong, and I remember when he ran for judge, fully expecting to lose, but did it because he believed he could make a difference anyway. I remember literally when he asked me for my endorsement, he said, "You probably don't want to endorse someone as a councilman who you know can't win." And I said, "It's not about whether or not I think you can win. You're the best man for the job. I am proud to support you. I'm even more proud today after his years of distinguished service." So independent of what we may feel about any individual project or issue, and it is absolutely fair for a judge to be concerned with secure parking in this day and age, where we have had in our own judicial parking lot a man about to be sentenced to murder with a gun. For a judge to be concerned about their safety in Lake County, Ohio, is perfectly reasonable under those circumstances. And I will just say that I am very grateful to the judge for his service, and we will work with him to find an affordable, fiscally responsible way to ensure his safety and the safety of his staff, because not all courts have the same resources. The probate court does not have attached secure parking like the common pleas court does. I know as we're renovating the parking lot for the juvenile court, we're going to be adding a perimeter fence. We are taking steps to ensure the safety of our judges and court employees in this day and age. And it is always a challenge because cost structures have changed so much. Go back pre-COVID, that garage probably would have been a $100,000, $150,000 job, which is what the judge envisioned when this began. We were all shocked by how much the pricing went up. But part of it too is a function of the fact that the probate court is the old mail house. It's a historic building in a historic district, and it turns out that making changes to a building like that is infinitely more expensive than putting a garage on your typical home. So it's completely understandable that the judge and our staff were surprised by the bids that came back. But nonetheless, the right decision was made by the judge before anyone even had the opportunity to advise him, which I think reinforces Judge Bartolotta's commitment to the taxpayer, and I thank him for that. But with that, are there any other members of the public who have some words to say? Even though you're famous, name and address for the record.
Brian Massey, just an average citizen from Lake County, 8196 Rainbow Drive. First, I'd like to start off by saying Jason Boyd has my total and absolute confidence in whatever he does.
Thank you.
He has been transparent and has gone over and above, what I've asked him to do. So Jason says it, I believe it 100%. So thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
I just want to let the commissioners know that we are proceeding with our property tax issue. It's not going to go away. Our plans are next week we will be sending the petitions, 1,000 plus petitions, signatures to the Attorney General with our initiative petition to eliminate the property taxes from the state of Ohio. Complete elimination. Commissioner Plechnik, we certainly appreciate everything that you have done, and we have recorded it, and to get that message out. We recognize that the property ownership really is the foundation of our freedom and liberty. It's how families can get out of poverty because of the transfer of wealth from one generation to the next. And when we see unrealized gains being taxed, we wouldn't put up for that, with our stocks. So why would we do it with property values? And a lot of people say, well, how are we going to, fund the police and fire, roads and bridges? And as I say to my local administrator, I said, send me a bill. I want to pay that. I want to pay for the fire department. I'll pay for the police. I'll pay for the roads. Just don't tie it to my house. Nothing gets tied to my house. It is my house. I worked for that whole thing my whole life. And now the government, in 3 years, can foreclose on it?
Well, Mr. Massey, as we heard from Vivek Ramaswamy the other night, do we really own our homes, or are we just renting from the government at this point? When you raise property taxes to a level that surpasses your mortgage payment, you're really a renter, not an owner, and that has to stop. So I'm grateful for the work that you're doing. I'm grateful for the work that Keith Davies and Citizens for Property Tax Reform are doing, and I'll say it, to the extent that he joins us and he pushes for even a small increase to the homestead exemption to at least make things better. I also thank State Representative Dan Troy, even though he sits on the other end of the aisle from me, because this issue cuts beyond politics. The folks can't afford this anymore, and we need to stop asking the wrong questions. It's not about how do we afford more government, it's about how can we afford to pay these excessive property taxes. It's got to stop. Fair housing starts with a fair tax system. Because if we're renters in our own homes, if we own nothing, this ceases to be the United States of America, it ceases to be Ohio, and we'll undo Lake County's birthday. I don't want to live in a place like that, and I know that you don't, so I just want to thank you for being here.
I agree 100%. As we're speaking to people throughout the state, we ask them, well, what type of government do you really want? Do you want the Chinese model here in the United States? How about Russia? Is that what you want? You want the Russian model? How about North Korea? Is that what you want? Or do you really want freedom and liberty? Unfortunately, many of our people they don't even understand what freedom and liberty is. They've become socialists, and they're expecting the government to take care of them. We're an ungodly, uneducated, immoral society, and the chickens are coming home to roost unless we do something. So we're trying to get it across to all of the legislators, senators, and representatives. You better start paying attention to the average citizen, because we mean business. We're not going to let you take our homes, and if they're not the right ones, we're going to vote them out of office. I spoke to Representative Troy. He certainly seems like he's engaged on this thing, but the citizens aren't just depending on the representatives. As I go through this, as I pull back the curtain on this representative democracy that we talk about, it seems like an illusion at times to me. Are they really Do they really care about the average citizens, or do they care more about their donor class? One last thing I'll tell the commissioners. We've just started our own LOGE, Lake County's Office of Government Efficiency. We're going to expose any corruption, waste, fraud, abuse of the taxpayers. I just let everybody know, we'll never bear false witness. We will always have the receipts. We're going to let everybody know. Thank you.
And so when you do bear false witness and tell lies and you are corrected, will you then broadcast as loud that you were wrong?
Commissioner Beveridge, I offer you a platform as I offer anyone on our website.
I don't want your
We're-
platform. I want accurate information and zero lies.
Mm-hmm.
And when people lie, I want them to say, I lied or I was misinformed.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So that's what my question is. I salute you by getting involved. I salute you for trying to make a positive impact in your community.
Mm-hmm.
But when you lie,
Mm-hmm.
then I think you have an obligation to the community to say, I lied.
We'll call you out, Commissioner Beveridge. We'll call you out. All right?
Okay.
What about your reprimand? Did you tell anybody about that? I mean, just saying.
Let's keep order. Let's keep order, folks. Any other members of the public for the work session? Any other members of the public? Hearing none, I want to use the rest of our time to have a conversation with our head engineer from Lake County Department of Utilities, Randy Roethlisberger. As I mentioned during our commissioner meeting proper, we've gotten a lot of questions, more than a few concerns from residents in Madison as the Lake County Department of Utilities has taken over their water provision, and I want to make sure those concerns are addressed. Principally what I've been hearing, Randy, and maybe you could react to this, give us some background and a sense of how things are going, is that they were quote unquote promised by Madison that their bills would go down when they transferred from Madison to Lake County, and folks whose bills are higher than the bills they were used to paying Madison are objecting that they were lied to, that they don't want to pay a higher bill, what can be done. And one specific issue that was raised with me is apparently Lake County's minimum water usage fee assumes higher minimum usage than the old Madison fee. I don't know if that's true or not, but I want to start with those questions.
I'm trying to think of how far back to go, and I think we'll go back all the way probably. But I think the first, comment I might make is the difference between us and Madison Village as far as billing is we bill quarterly, and they used to bill monthly.
I am aware of that.
Yeah, so some residents, it might be as simple as that. I know that a lot of them won't be. Will be more complicated than that, but. So simply that first bill might appear to be double or even more than what their typical bill was, but they haven't been billed for 3 months. So as long as their bill is less than 3 times what they used to pay, then they'll be paying less. I guess that would be a start. That'd be my first question is exactly how much is it compared to previous bills. So that might be the simple answer to some of those responses that we bill quarterly. Our minimum, I don't know what Madison Village's minimum bill was. I can tell you ours is $40 a quarter, and that's the equivalent of 9 what we call units or 900 cubic feet of water, which I would say about 80 or 90% of people are above that, go above that. But I could take a look at what their minimums were before.
If you could, I would be grateful.
Yeah. Overall, I think just to get some history on it, you had mentioned that this goes back decades, and it does. My first meeting with Madison Village was in 2004, and I know we met with them long before that. We started selling water to Madison Village in 1993 when their well fields went dry, essentially. They had a choice at that time in 93. They had their own water plant and their own wastewater treatment plant, and their water plant was in need of significant upgrades in order to continue for the village to provide water on their own. So they had a choice to make. They could tie into the Lake County system and purchase water from Lake County, or they could spend a significant amount of money and upgrade their water treatment plant. they chose to tie into the Lake County system.
Would it be fair to say, and I'm asking the question, I'm not trying to lead, but would it be fair to say that building a new plant and then amortizing its costs through the water bills would have been higher than the cost of buying water from Lake County's pre-existing infrastructure, or would it have been lower?
Yeah, it would have been significantly higher, simply because when they tied into our system, we just started charging them for the water that they were using. They never had to make that investment at all, whether it was $100,000 or $10 million to improve their water treatment plant. That never happened. They never spent that money. They just started purchasing water from us. So they just used our rate and passed that along to the customers within the village. Plus, they added some for their, so they could maintain the water system, fix breaks and that sort of thing.
So is there a Madison specific part of the bill even now?
Yes, there is for wastewater.
So they're still doing the sewer treatment then?
No, we're doing the sewer treatment, but they had the same decision to make that they did in 1993. They had the same decision to make on the wastewater side. In 93, it was for water. In 2000, and whenever we made that agreement, I think 2017, they agreed, and they agreed to move the operation of the wastewater system.
So what's changed, they've already had Lake County water for some time. What's changed is now they're also on Lake County sewer.
Yes, that's changed, and the bills now for water come directly from us. So there isn't that, the village residents are benefiting from the larger scale of the water system.
So is the full bill now for and from Lake County, or is there any Madison component? Because someone mentioned to me there was like a Madison component for some period of years on the bill.
Right.
What is that?
So in 2017, the village had a choice, like they did in 93, of to completely renovate and really replace their wastewater treatment plant, which is very old. It was not functioning per the standards.
And what was their other choice?
To tie into us. So they had to build a pipe from their wastewater treatment plant to our system.
And they're amortizing the cost of that pipe then?
Exactly.
And how long is that going to take?
I think it's about 30 years.
That's usually what a bond is for.
Yeah.
And do you know how heavy a fee that is that Madison is adding to the bill?
I think it's $49 a quarter.
$49 a quarter
I can verify that, but yeah.
to every resident?
Yes.
Okay, that's a lot of money. And so that money is going to Madison to pay back the
loans that they took out in order to build the pipe to connect their wastewater treatment plant to our wastewater treatment plant.
So on top of everything they pay, they have another $49 for that pipe.
Right.
Wow, so that's almost $200 a year.
Yes.
But that money is not going to Lake County. That money is going to Madison, and they're using it to repay for their capital project of building that tie-in pipe.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And is that Madison Village residents only, or all Madison residents are paying?
Just Madison Village.
Okay. Okay.
So that was the choice that they had to make in 2017. Are we gonna increase our rates by about $49 and tie into Lake County, or are we gonna increase our rates by some significantly more dollar amount and replace our wastewater treatment plant? It may have been.
So people in now, folks in Madison Township, are they also now on Lake County water and sewer?
They always have been.
They always have been. So the only real change is in Madison Village.
Correct.
And so those folks have now transitioned from sewer with Madison Village to sewer with us. And we've started to bill them quarterly rather than monthly. And what they see on their quarter bill is another $49 that is going specifically to Madison for the capital cost of tying in. Now, even with that $49, adding that all in, is the average person paying more or less, to your knowledge,
I believe they're paying less on average, yeah.
than what they were previously paying?
Yes.
So what I would really like, Randy, if it's possible for your department to do a write-up essentially explaining what we've just discussed now. And I'd really like to look into whether we could do a mailing to Madison Village residents, just explaining, anyone who's, obviously we'd be sending it to the customers. Maybe we could even include it in their next bill, because that would be a really apropos way to send it to them and save some postage, and just explain, you may wonder what's going on with your bill. Here's what the cost would have been had Madison gone their own way. They chose this because it was a lower cost. Here's what this $49 is. It's not going to Lake County. This is a Madison specific fee. It's not something we have any authority over or can cut. But even with that fee, the average resident still saved money versus the alternative of fixing, rehabilitating, building a new sewage treatment plant just for Madison Village. I'd also like it if we could discuss the investment that we made with ARP dollars so that folks understand if that had also been amortized as a 30-year fee, what that would have cost. Because, you know, I think it's important to show the investment that Lake County has made in Madison Village. My understanding is we allocated more ARP dollars to Madison than any other municipality in Lake County, despite the fact that Madison is rather small. Now, we did it because there was a great need there. Obviously, the residents have had quite a burden transitioning from their own sewer system to transitioning to ours. It's not easy to put all that infrastructure up all at once. And I say all at once, knowing I mean 20 years, but that's light speed for moving a sewer system. So I understand the need was there. I'm not objecting to it. But I think it's important that folks know when they say, is there anything the county can do? Well, here's what the county has been doing all along. We are with you, but it is not cheap to build an infrastructure like this, and it will benefit taxpayers for many, many decades to come, because now you have the newest sewer system in all of Lake County, which is pretty good to have if you talk to the folks in Willowick,
Right.
who are going to have to be looking at those expenditures in the not too distant future. I also would like a reiteration in this report on the issue with lead, because a lot of folks, as they're complaining about their bill, go, I'm paying all this money and I have lead pipes. For the record, I also got the Lake County Department of Utilities warning letter. We don't know if your pipes are lead or not. Number one, it's really important to let people know that doesn't mean your pipes are lead. We just don't have a record one way or the other. And I think it created a little bit of panic. And I know you did your best in saying at commissioners' meetings, this doesn't mean your pipes are lead. But I think it would be important for folks to know it means we don't have a record. And it means that in the future, the county and the owner need to work together to find out. And if we could talk about what we're doing on that project, I think it would alleviate a lot of people, because no one wants to drink lead-contaminated water.
Absolutely. I agree with all of that. But it's unfortunate, and I mentioned that in several commissioners' meetings leading up to that letter going out, that we were required to do this from federal regulations, EP regulations, to send this letter out, not only initially to say we don't know what it is, but it might be lead, but we have to send that out every year, annually, until we discover what it actually is or replace it. And the most unfortunate thing to me is, Commissioner Troy talked about this OPWC issue on the ballot, which is the best funding mechanism for improving infrastructure in Ohio by far, by federal grants or anything. I mean, that's the way that it needs to be done, these grant programs. But we are going to redirect these infrastructure replacement projects where we're replacing water lines and sewer lines and just replacing lead laterals when there is evidence that there is no lead leaching into the water system. It's interesting that this also happened in 1993, the first lead and copper rule. They evaluated how much lead was getting into the water through either lines or lead solder or lead faucets and that sort of thing inside the house. And there was changes that were made to our water treatment process in order to eliminate that or reduce it. And what we did is we add a chemical called zinc orthophosphate, and we also adjust the pH so our water is not corrosive. So even if you have lead in your house or your service connection,
Which I might, according to your letter.
and you might, but what I can tell you is that since 1993,
Well, my house was built in 1956.
so it could be, yeah, I would say it might be 50-50.
Oh, boy.
But since then, every year we go out and we take dozens of samples, lead samples from houses that have lead services. And we've never had any recordings above the lead action level. So the way we treat our water, the lead is not getting into the water. And yet we're going to end up spending millions of dollars.
Well, see, all of that, I think, needs to be said to the residents the same way this letter has gone out, and say, yes, there's a possibility there is some lead in your plumbing. We just don't know. Number one, there might be no lead at all. Number two, even if there is, here are all the safety precautions we're taking right now to keep your family safe from lead poisoning. I think people deserve to have that reassurance that the risk level is very low. Not to say that someday fixing this doesn't get on the list and shouldn't happen. But I think that right here and now we should avoid people panicking over something that we have made multi-million-dollar investments into to keep people safe. I'm worried when I hear people so concerned that they're afraid to drink their own water. We don't want them buying bottled water that is less pure than the water they're getting in their home because they're worried that there's lead, because we had to send out this mandated letter from the federal EPA. And it's certainly something we should put on our checklist when we talk to Congressman Joyce, Senator Marino, Senator Husted, that maybe we shouldn't be required to send out at taxpayer expense a very frightening letter every single year without explaining to people the risk is incredibly low, and even if there is some limited amount of lead in your plumbing, the way we prepare the water in a non-corrosive manner dramatically limits the health risk to your family. So it's not something to panic in the streets about, even as we try to upgrade our infrastructure over time. So I think that if we could have an addendum in the bill for the Madison folks, that would be really helpful. But we also need to think about whether maybe in the county newsletter we communicate about the lead issue to everyone generally in Lake County so that they understand this is something we're working on, but it's not like we found out yesterday and you have a lead problem. We actually have made multi-million-dollar investments in safety many years ago so that you are as safe today as pretty much anyone could be. I think that's really important to reassure the taxpayer that the water from their tap is safe. I mean, I don't have any problem drinking from my tap, but it is a little creepy when you get that letter from LCDU saying lead in the pipes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, my daughter got it at her house and she gave me a call. What is this all about? It sounds scary.
I'm like, sounds like you're not doing your job, Dad.
Right.
You trying to kill me?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a concern. I mean, there's, we had a quote from the last director of the EPA at a conference where he said, we have the safest drinking water in the history of the world in the United States right now, and it's true. And
well, it may not be true everywhere, but I believe it's true in Lake County.
In the United States and certainly in Lake County. And the lead thing issue is a very, very, very serious issue that we take very seriously, and it can cause horrible things to happen, especially to young children and their developing brains. And we need to be very vigilant about what we do and how we treat the water to make sure that doesn't happen. And what brought it to light was in Flint, Michigan. Everybody, I think, has heard of it, but may not know the whole story, is they did exactly what they weren't supposed to do and changed their treatment process. And their water, they changed their source from Detroit and from Lake Michigan, and switched it to the Flint River, and they didn't treat it properly, and the lead was able to leach into the water and cause all kinds of unfortunate health issues. And but it's very easily found exactly what happened and why it happened and why it's not happening in the other 175,000 districts.
Now, my understanding
in the
is where
United
we've
States.
seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is where we've seen the biggest concern with lead contamination and young children has actually been the issue of older homes and paint.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a relatively cheap fix to, change out a wall or repaint versus the incredible investment it takes to even send a letter to everyone in Lake County saying warning lead paint, let alone replacing all the plumbing for every home, built before the 70s. And it's remarkable to me that the federal government mandates these kind of warnings without helping to actually fix it and not addressing a far more doable problem of old lead paint in homes that simply is being overlooked in many cases. Putting a checklist on a sale document or, telling landlords you better do this is not necessarily going to get anything done. I think lead paint is probably a much bigger issue with older homes in Lake County than lead pipes are. And I find it remarkable that we're not we're not really looking at that issue, but we're spending how much taxpayer dollars scaring people about the water.
Yeah, it was, I would call it a knee-jerk reaction for something has to be done, so let's do something, and not look at the science behind it.
Well, I appreciate if you could take some time to give us a draft, and we could consider whether or not there's a way to include a letter to Madison Village taxpayers in their bill, because they have a right to know what they're paying, why they're paying it. And I know there's a lot of confusion right now since the transition just happened. So if there's a way we can economically get that done and really give them a concise informational write-up, I think that's going to be important. Beyond that, I think we should consider how to explain the broader lead pipe warning issue, particularly given that you're saying we have to send this letter every year. It's going to be a recurring concern. Every year, people are going to notice it for the first time and be concerned, and we need to think about how to address it in a public way so that people understand that there already has been major reforms put in place in Lake County to make sure they're safe.
Absolutely.
So, any other discussions or questions for our work session today?
Okay, Commissioner, I'll just circling back on our guest regarding the probate garage. I'll circle back on all that information. We are working on, I think Clerk Bell with Dave Hackman on a resolution to reject all those bids. So that is in the process, I believe. Jen, is that correct? Working with Hackman on whatever the next steps are. So I just appreciate the support on that, and I'll keep you all posted. So
Thank you. Well, one last call. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I hereby adjourn our work session at 11:31.